decisions. The decisions are making sure that they're inclusive of what would be the impact if that lease is not renewed.
Can I just say, like, can we have your general support of?
Well, if you know me, then you would know. Yes, of course you have my general support.
I'm talking to Chancellor.
Oh, sorry, Bob.
Yes, also, but I'm not going to make a formal commitment without knowing all the details.
TWLF! Chancellor, you wrote on Sunday, March 27, 2005 in the Los Angeles Times that at Berkeley we are missing out on exceptional African American, Latino, Native American students. You wrote that inclusion is a public good, not a private benefit. And you wrote that intercultural competence is the ability best learned via experience with an appreciation of other cultures to navigate successfully in today's globalized society. 2005 was also the year that a memorandum of understanding was reached between students representing Third World Liberation Fronts and the administration securing funding for a temporary space at Heller Lounge for the Multicultural Community Center. Along with multicultural student development, we are a space that provides resource, cultural programming for recruitment and retention to ensure that equity and inclusion represents a reality and not just rhetoric on this campus. We support and cater services to 8540 students of color and other systematically underrepresented students who, as well as larger communities of workers, migrant people, and people of color outside this campus are most affected by the financial crisis and cuts to public education.
We demand administrative accountability to your commitment to our communities. The MOU is up for renegotiation in 2011.
So our question for you is, how do you plan to support the Multicultural Community Center and the Multicultural Student Development Offices? And if you could also please summarize how the budget cuts are affecting currently lower Sproul redevelopment.
For their continuing advocacy on these issues, which I think are important. And as you know, we've made and continue to make significant investments in the Multicultural Center, which I believe in strongly, and the Multicultural Center is part of the Lower Sproul Planning. But I just have to admit that these huge cuts in the budget have caused us to have to rethink our strategy there. And so, again, this is the thing where I'm in discussion actually with the Graduate Assembly and with the ASUC about the best way of moving forward. And we're still trying to get a financial model that will enable us to move forward. But the Multicultural Center is very definitely part of the Lower Sproul planning.
Can you say how specifically you plan to support the Multicultural Center throughout the Lower Sproul redevelopment process and how the budget cuts have changed your approach, please?
So I thought I answered that by saying that. Of course, I support the Multicultural Center without a financial model for how we move forward in the context of the current budget crisis. I can't make a commitment until we have a financial model that says this is how we're actually going to pay for it.
Thank you for your support, Chancellor. We will be holding you accountable to your promises.
Thank you.
My name is Christopher Franco. I'm currently an ASUC senator who, along with hundreds of students, have been working tirelessly to aid in the efforts of redevelopment of Lower Sproul. The student body has largely supported these efforts and see it as an important priority for our campus, our partners, to improve student life and find a permanent home for the Multicultural Center and provide a space for our student body outside the classroom to call home. So my question is, knowing that students support this project in its entirety, can you tell us, as our partner in this project, how much are you willing to financially contribute to this space outside the classroom that we can call our home? And I know that you said that you don't have the financial models, but can you tell us when you'll be able to give us that information as well, along with my question?
Apart from the students, but also from the joint committee that's been working on this, we actually needed a detailed plan with exactly what the costs are going to be, and the reality is that it's going to have to be phased, and so we need a phasing plan as well, and we will match the student funds.
So you will match the student funds?
Right, in a phased way. Correct.
What does that mean, just for clarification?
Phased. It may mean we can't build the whole thing all at once, that we will have to have it sequenced.
So in each phase you match those funds?
Yeah, correct.
And right now, as you know, the first phase is Ashland Hall, is what we're looking at. The second phase would probably be Cesar Chavez, and the third would be the MLK Union.
And in the
No, but
first.
it's possible that we may want to do Eshelman and Chavez together.
Together.
I mean, it's a question of what's the best way to proceed. Also, students will have to pass a referendum.
So just for clarification, would the first phase include Eshelman and the Multicultural Center?
Right.
We're
Absolutely.
looking into, okay.
Right, and so and just so you know, that's a part of the programming committee, that's a part of the Lower Sprague redevelopment process, and the program committee actually decides which is students, faculty, and staff. Of course, I'm on that body as well, you know, and that involves actually laying out where things would go and how much assignable square footage would be given to each of the functions that would comprise that space. Absolutely.
But this will not happen unless there's a student referendum to support the student part of it. And that's the reality.
And last semester, IAS, International Area Studies Department, was severely, I guess, compromised. And I guess given that, and also you earlier talking about how you are trying to get private funding, could you give specific examples of how private funding influences spending priorities and distribution of funding to different departments on campus?
The IAS, the elimination of the deanship was decided after a great deal of consultation and after 20 years of observing the deanship in action. Before 1989, there was no deanship of international and area studies. The main function of the dean was supposed to be to represent the various institutes and centers that are research units in international and area studies, Center for Latin American Studies, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and to help raise funds for them. In addition, the dean was responsible for the IAS teaching program, which before there was a deanship used to be in the Institute of International Studies. I suggested that perhaps these these teaching units could go to the undergraduate interdisciplinary studies program, and folks within IAS said, no, that was not a good idea at all. So we put them back in the Institute of International Studies, where an associate director, Stephen Small of the African American Studies Department, is now responsible for supervising the international and area studies teaching programs. While there has been an administrative reorganization in order to save money and increase administrative efficiency, there has been no diminution of the contribution to curricular development and maintaining the curriculum in international and area studies. A lot of people don't like change. A lot of changes are happening because of exigencies, but that does not necessarily mean that your major has been diminished.
Hearing at an extraordinary rate. We appealed to our alumni and to our friends to provide resources that will provide financial aid for students, will help support faculty salaries, will help to do all of the things that we need to do to keep the libraries open, as a dramatic example recently. And so once these funds come to us, they in effect become public funds, and you know, like the libraries is a recent example, which came from parents actually of students. You know, I don't view this as privatization. I view this as
I guess I'm just asking, like, there's never a case when somebody gives money to the school and there's like a conditionality where they're like, you have to spend this on a certain something. And do you
sure,
accept
for
those
buildings.
conditionalities?
Sure. So, for example, for the health science building, Li Ka-shing gave the money to support research into cancer and infectious diseases, and we couldn't take his $40 million and use it for athletics, for example. So it has to be used to build a building to do research, to support research and have undergraduate laboratory. But we solicited it on that basis. We asked them for the money on that basis because we want to be able to do stem cell research. We want to be able to do research in cancer. Our graduate students want to be able to do that. If they don't have the facilities to do their research, then they're not going to be able to address these really important problems.
The Chancellor mentioned earlier when he was discussing the effects that the fee hikes have had on students and the effects of the proposed 32% fee hikes, which the regents are voting on November 18th, what those effects will be like. You